Thank you for being here. If you're interested in foreign languages, I'll tell you a bit about what I know and what I can bring you. So if you're wondering who I am to talk about foreign languages, my name is Alex. I'm the founder of Language City Academy, which is an online language school for homeschoolers. I'm a gifted, passionate linguist with a double major in French and English as a second language. I'm the former private English teacher of French President Chirac's daughter and grandson, and also the former private French teacher of Jessica Chastain, the Oscar winner. I taught at UC Irvine and Le Lycée Français, and I've been teaching homeschoolers since 2006. That being said, I'd be very tempted to say that when someone tells you I have a master's degree in Spanish, French, to be very honest, I think it doesn't mean much. I know some people say, oh, that's good, that's reassuring, he's got a master's degree. But I went through that path, got my master's degree, and I can tell you that 99% of the students with me could not speak a language after that. I mean, French, when I was in France, when I was in America, they were all learning French as a second language. They could not have a conversation. Even the PhD professors, some could speak fluently, some could not. They were great in terms of the technical aspects of the language. They had a lot to teach me, but they would do that in English. In French, it wasn't working out so well. There's always something that people are missing. So again, having a master's degree does not mean much. I mean, it's better than having nothing, okay? But it really does not mean much. Let's see, what else I want to say. Before I get into that, I think, I wanted to tell you that when I started learning English, I was born and raised in France, Paris, France. And first, my relationship with the languages was one of fear. I was just scared. My parents told me in the 6th grade you're going to have to learn English. I had no idea what it was like. It just sounded like it was impossible. I thought for a moment, for about 2 months, I thought that I have to learn the alphabet in English and that would be good. And so at first I was scared, so I tried to get ahead of the game a little bit. And then quickly I figured that it was really nice. It was very interesting, fun. It would open the door to many different countries, different people, different ways of thinking. So it became a passion and then an obsession more than a passion. The kind of person I am, I could not get asleep at night because there was a word I could not think of or find. I'd have to get up like at 2 in the morning, okay, I can't sleep. Open my dictionary, do some research. And I've always been that way. Ever since, even today, there's something I don't know. Sometimes I can't fall asleep. I have to think about a way of translating something. It's insane. So my brain is wired in a very strange, interesting way. I could almost tell you, as I was saying earlier, I could almost tell you what I learned, when, how, with whom, at what time in my life. It's absolutely insane, but it's great though. First thing I wanted to talk about is how to get children to learn a foreign language until they're about 6 years old. That's interesting, a good question that I get sometimes. Then how can older kids and teenagers learn a foreign language, being homeschooled? And really I'll be talking about that when you have a bit of an intermediate level at least. The downside of many foreign language programs, based on my experience, I have a lot to say about that, and what Language City Academy has to offer. So first, again, question I get a lot is, what do you do with kids who are 6 or younger? The best thing to me is have them immersed in the language somehow. Immersion programs, native speaking nanny. Please don't waste your time and money. I get so many people who call me, strangely enough, and say, oh, I'd like private lessons for my 4, 5, 6-year-old. And I tried a few times, it was a complete failure. So now I tell parents, why would you pay me? I charge $80, $90 an hour for a 5 or 6-year-old. It's a waste of money, really. It does not work. You can't teach a child that age that early. It doesn't work. What works is immersion. And now with technologies, with the internet, we have amazing ways that we didn't have when I grew up without the internet. Before, you didn't have much of an option. It was either an immersion school or nothing. And if you didn't have an au pair at home, there was no way you could teach your kids how to speak a second language. Now with the internet, there's so many things you can do. You can play songs in another language. You can show them cartoons in a second language. You can play the radio as a background, TV shows online in any language. And they can be passive about it. It can be something that they like a cartoon. I'll give you a list. And they will learn. Even though you may feel that they're not learning, they're not speaking, their brains are absorbing so much. It's unbelievable. So it's not as nice as if they can respond in the language, but still, it's so much better than nothing. You're forming their brain to understand a second language. They'll be better able to separate words when they learn. They'll be able to better words. So it's really something that I strongly encourage. Here are a few examples of things that they might want to watch on YouTube. For French, for instance, you have Caillou in French. It's a Canadian cartoon. They have it in Spanish, by the way. You have Tom Sawyer, which I grew up watching. Les Mystérieuses Cités d'Or, I like that one. Olive and Tom, which was a Japanese manga, but boys love it. Jeanne et Serge, girls love it, even boys. Princesse Sarah. Forget the Smurfs, les Schtroumpfs. It's terrible French. Because everything is Schtroumpf this, Schtroumpf that. It's not going to work out. They write an essay for the AP exam one day. Oh, Schtroumpf this, Schtroumpf that. It's not going to fly with the teachers. Inspector Gadget, which you guys had, I believe. Radio stations, if you like French, for instance, and you want to put that in the background, kids are playing at home, go online, put the computer next to them, even if they say, oh, Dad, you're bugging me, Mom, you're bugging me with that thing, that horrible language, turn it off. Don't give in, as we were discussing earlier, don't give in to kids who say, oh, I hate that language, turn it off, they say it's that or nothing, Otherwise, if you let kids decide all the time, I think really they'll sit on the couch, eat ice cream, and watch TV, So yeah, France Info, RTL2, very nice. You get French music and people talk. Chant France, I love that. They play French music. They had a lot, because I don't know if you know with the Marshall Plan what happened after World War II. Americans told the French, we'll help you. We'll give you money to rebuild France. But here's the deal: you're gonna take our music and movies. Okay, that's the deal for a very, very, very long time. The French loved it, really. They completely embraced American culture that way. And then about 15 years ago, the French government said, okay, we're going to promote French culture, music. So now all radio stations have to play French music 30% of the time because we're invaded with American and British music. It was all you could hear. They said, okay, so they played from 1 in the morning to 6 in the morning. Smart. But that's one thing you can do. You have all those radio stations live online. It's authentic French, so it's a great way of learning. You don't only have podcasts, really, which are limited. TV stations, they're all online. TF1, France 2, Canal Plus FR, TV5. On YouTube, you have plenty of TV shows. As adults, you might like ONPC, On n'est pas couché, Des paroles et des actes. More for adults, like... I don't watch TV, so I can give you examples in America, but you would enjoy them if you understand. Same for Spanish, you have Ratita Presumida, Rosita, Fresita, Caillou in Español, Campeones, Oliver y Benji, Los Pitufos, forget that, not good. And Inspector Gadget, Cédric in Español. You have Cédric in French too. Those are good. So again, I personally don't like having my kids watch TV, but if it's to learn a foreign language, it's okay. And to let you know, I did it with my kids, and I let them watch TV in Spanish, and it's worked. They got into an elementary school in Spanish immersion. My daughter was not lost, and that's the idea. She got in there. She didn't speak. She could say a few things, but she could understand from watching cartoons in Spanish. She could understand, and from there it took off very easily and very quickly. Now she just finished her 2nd year of Spanish immersion. She can converse already. So I think other kids who didn't do that, they struggle more. Okay.
How long were you doing that with her before the Spanish immersion?
I think when she was 2.5, 3, I let her watch Dora in Spanish, every now and then. And then we went on with Caillou in Spanish, always like half an hour a day,
Okay.
And I think it was good enough.
We don't watch TV in our house either, so I was wondering what time frame was not.
Right, it would be
about
half an hour.
Okay.
And then I just get goosebumps and I feel bad and guilty. And I just turn it off. So, of course, it's the downside is that, the kids get so hooked to the screen that, but if you set the boundaries, the fact that it's in Spanish to me was acceptable. And if you're able to read books in Spanish, do it, as long as you don't butcher the words or anything. And so that's why, my Spanish is okay, but I know I'll make mistakes, so I won't speak to them. I can tell them, I'll drill them with words. How how you say that in Spanish, and things that I'm sure of. That's it. I'm not going to speak in Spanish to them. There's about 1 million radio stations that you can get online, and those are Spanish from Spain, by the way. But they're pretty easy to find, I think, especially here in California. So if you Google them, you'll find 500,000. We have plenty available. TV stations, Telemundo, CNN Español, RTVE, Univision. For adults, again, a talk show that I really love is Jaime Bailey. I don't know, have you ever heard of that guy? Watch him on YouTube. He's got a talk show in Miami. He's very entertaining. What I love about him is that he's very soft-spoken, speaks very slowly. He's got Peruvian accent, which is very easy to understand. So I like him. So again, if you watch it for yourself, you enjoy it. Kids hear the language in the background. It's always a plus. So among all the homeschoolers that I've met over the years, some people, the question I get all the time is funny. Is how does your program compare with Rosetta Stone? Rosetta Stone. So some people go with Rosetta Stone, Fluence, Duolingo, and others choose more traditional and costly passage. Lawrence Springs. Have you ever heard of Lawrence Springs? I think what people like about Lawrence Springs is that they're accredited, so it's good for that. But I've had plenty of students go through them, and others similar. And what I'm about to say that is not really only about Lawrence Springs. It's about just about any program that I've seen in French, and I'm pretty sure it applies to other languages. It's insane how many mistakes there are in those books. Things that are inaccurate, mistakes. I think that when they teach grammar, for instance, the explanations are pretty vague or inaccurate, I think, or vague, I would say. And then they leave you with a theory, and then they don't give you all of the words that you need. Let's talk about AR verbs in Spanish, ER verbs in French. They'll tell you how they work. They'll give you a few examples, and then that's about it. Here's the book with conjugations, boring. You have to memorize them, sit in front of your book. What I've done over the past 5 years, at least, or 10 years, is that I've been categorizing, and again, that's really something that not a lot of people can do. The way I function is that when I speak a language, especially French, because that's what I'm working on, I actually listen to people with one ear, and with the other ear, I analyze everything that I hear, and I put into a category. I write down, I take notes. It's a scrap paper, and I take that verb, very important, that verb, that expression, this word, the synonym. I write it down, and I've put it on over 10 years into this method. So when we talk about ER verbs or AR verbs in Spanish, I'll give you a complete list, not only a boring list to go through, but with examples, with pictures, with colors. We'll go over that, and I'll show you. So they're ready. I'm really, in fact, targeting all the vocab that you actually need when you speak every day. And again, I hear oftentimes about conversational French. We do conversational Spanish, French. And I look at what they do, and it really is not. It's, may I have a glass of water, please? Where's the bathroom? That's not what I need for conversation. I don't have that kind of conversation. That's me. I don't spend my days asking where the bathroom is. I mean, it's nice, it's important, but there's more, I hope, in conversations. So when we talk about AR verbs, ER verbs, I've got this awesome list. And it goes with, the same goes with all different kinds of verbs, with every tense that I go over, every structure. I really try to encompass everything that is necessary to fully understand the language. When we talk about reflexive verbs, that's another thing. Reflexive verbs, they'll give kids a decent amount of reflexive verbs. I'm very skeptical as to the use of about a third of them. And it's so big in French, even bigger in Spanish. Verbs that we use all the time and that I don't see in books. I cannot believe why. There are so many reflexive verbs that I use every day that kids never get to learn through their 4 years of high school French or Spanish. It's unbelievable. So I've put all of them together. It's a huge lesson, but it's big. It's fascinating. You go, oh my gosh, this is reflexive. Like to park, the verb to park is reflexive. Why is it that kids don't learn that verb? To have a blast. I teach them to have fun, standard French. Colloquial, to have a blast, because people say that all the time. And it's interesting because to have a blast is exactly the same as in English. To blast, éclater, s'éclater, to have a blast. I think those things are useful, important, and so I incorporate them. And I think it's more engaging for the kids if they feel like it's real, if they feel like they can actually listen to a song, watch a movie, and they'll get so much more out of it. Then they're going to be engaged in the language, I think. That was my case growing up and learning English. What else? Okay. Yes, I think I like the description that I wrote. In a nutshell, the way they teach English throughout all those methods in high school, self-study methods, college, to me it's very much like you tell a kid in Mexico or in Europe, oh, you want to come to America, I'll teach you English, and they teach you Shakespeare in English. The kid comes here, you can understand what he says, Shakespeare in English, it's okay, you know, you're a native speaker, you can understand, but they absolutely will not understand a word you say, because it's authentic English, different from what they've learned. And to me, that's what it is. All my students who had an intermediate or advanced level, I've got this one guy in particular, amazing guy, brilliant linguist. He came to me, I couldn't hear an accent, he never lived in France. He was fluent in French, Spanish, German, he knows countless languages. And I thought, well, it's amazing, he's fluent, but he told me, I watch a movie, I understand close to nothing. If I speak too fast, he won't understand. And I had to put all these little pieces together for him, because I told him, yeah, it's true, you do talk like a book, really. So he smiled, and he's just thrilled that he can learn, really, now. Yeah, so I think at the end I was talking about the kind of teachers you have. Yeah, to me, you either have native speakers, you know, let's take French, that's my topic. Sadly enough, too many times, they don't know English well enough to be able to translate, draw a parallel between the languages, and they don't even know French as a second language well enough. You know, I don't know if you understand what I mean by that, but if you're asked to teach a student, you know, teach that rule in English, why is it you say I worked but I drank? You know, why would you say I don't know? Why would you say I drove or I was driving? All those things, you know, you have a way of explaining these things. So many native speakers are not able to do that. English speakers, many times, not always, but most of the time, don't know French well enough. Okay, or Spanish, or other languages, when it's the second language. And again, that's from experience. I'm not making it up for the sake of it. So let me give you very specific examples of what I mean by that. Here's my feeling after teaching French for 15 years. I feel like I grab one book, a second book, third book, 10 books, and they all said the same things. Same lessons, explained the same way. It's the same. If I teach a kid from New York online, Miami, London, anywhere, I'll hear the same things that the teachers tell them. It's like they all learn from the same teacher. An example, difference between savoir and connaître in French, you know, both verbs mean to know. Everybody will say, oh, savoir is about knowing something by heart, and connaître is about being acquainted with someone. And so all the kids, they have exercises, you have to choose the one verb, and they have no idea. They don't understand the sentence to begin with, and when they try to apply that rule, it just doesn't work out that way. Well, I don't know if it's because I love languages and I constantly think about rules and how they can be improved, but it has nothing to do with being acquainted and knowing something by heart. Savoir is followed by a verb shortly after, infinitive or subject verb. Connaître is not followed by a verb. So does it have anything to do with being acquainted or all those theoretical things? No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. And when you put it that way, it's very simple. My students at school, you know, it's bad, and I hate to do that, but I have some students who don't like languages, they just want to get an A. So I tell them, you know, you don't have to understand the sentence. If you spot a verb in the sentence after the blank, it's savoir. If you don't spot a verb after the blank, it's connaître. Savoir. So that's what it is, very simple. Nous versus on, this is insane. Nous versus on. If you know any French, you've learned that nous is the pronoun oui. And kids get drilled for years and years with the nous this, nous that. The French don't use it. Technically, I would say about 1% of the time, if not less. We use on for we, period. Okay? And I wish the teachers could say, well, nous is very formal. You use it in writing. When French kids take French at school, the way you take English here, You write an essay, you're asked, well, please, use nous, it's nice. Oh, it's just spoken French, you know, not very classy, not very elegant. Okay, and the kids don't know that. They keep saying nous, nous, nous. They go to France, they'll never hear nous. And they say, why do I not understand? Well, because no one says nous, you say on. Okay, so they should be drilled on every single day, not nous. Difference between imparfait, passé composé, same thing. I hear the same things all over again. You know, imparfait is when you focus on the moment in time, for past habits. Passé composé for things that happen at a very specific moment, don't last. This is so theoretical. There are ways, better ways. Imparfait is the past continuous in English. I was driving, I was speaking, we were talking, we were eating. That's all imparfait. Very simple, straightforward. Was, were, and the ing at the end of your verb. That's always imparfait. And past habits, by that they mean when you can say used to. If you can say I used to do this, I used to do that, that's imparfait. I think it's clearer, more straightforward. And then I could talk more, but I'm not really here to teach you French. When it comes to yes, no questions, we have 3 ways of asking yes, no questions in French. You have subject verb, that looks like a statement. You have est-ce que, subject verb. And then you have what we call the inversion, we switch verb subject. And teachers just teach that, that's it, there you go. And a lot of time they just drill the students mainly on the inversion, which is, again, super formal, and it's used 1% of the time, I would say. It's formal, it's for written French, and kids get drilled on that every day. Like they're gonna speak French like that. I mean, they'll speak French, we'll understand, but that's not how people speak, okay? This is a rule that's absolutely wrong that I hear, and you speak French so you can confirm. They claim, and sadly, that's the really heartbreaking for me, I have to teach things that are wrong so that kids can get good grades. They claim that you say avec qui when talking about a person with whom, but avec lequel with which for things. While it's actually very formal to say avec lequel talking about a person. So they teach things that are wrong. That's insane. Present tense, they don't really tell the full story about the present tense. There's so much more to know than what they teach. That one is just crazy. They give you, for the subjunctive, you know, you have a lot of subjunctive in all Latin languages. And so they give you a list of conjunctions and verbs that are followed by the subjunctive. And I keep seeing that one, pourvu que, in all books, pourvu que. And they give you the translation 500 years ago, which is pourvu que. And so they claim that it's provided that. Yeah, on condition that. So provided that you come early, I'll give you a ride. Pourvu que, no. Pourvu que means let's hope that. It has nothing to do with it. So it is followed with the subjunctive, but it doesn't mean what they claim at all. I mean, so yeah, plenty of other things like this. So I think that what I've noticed is that in old books, colleges, methods, when you reach a pretty good level, and I'm talking about French 3, 4 especially, they don't know what to teach anymore. They feel like, oh, okay, we've done all the grammar, what are we going to do, repeat everything again? So they think of the most complicated rules, which are completely irrelevant. Like I get this one lesson that drives me crazy where they try to teach the kid the difference between C apostrophe, cela, ça, and I'm thinking, who cares? This is really not so relevant. There are so many more things. Here's what they don't understand. Once you've reached that level, let's say that you've managed to learn all the verbs, all the tenses, you understand them, you'll notice that you're still not fluent, you wonder why. Very simple. There's 500,000 idiomatic expressions in every language that you have to know. You know what I mean by idiomatic? Something that pertains to your language. When you translate word for word, it means nothing, okay? I was talking earlier about, in French, avoir beau. Avoir beau, if you translate word for word, c'est j'ai beau, elle a beau pleurer, je ne pense pas qu'elle soit triste. Elle a beau pleurer, word for word, you go with Google Translate. That's interesting. She has beautiful cry, I don't think she's that sad. So that means nothing. That's an idiomatic expression. That one, we use it a lot. I think there should be a lesson on that. I have another one in mind. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to go to France. I can't wait to do this. And they translate word for word. Je ne peux pas attendre. If you say that in French, it sounds like you're tied up to a wall, and or you need to pee or do something, and you just have to go. You cannot wait. So it doesn't mean the same thing at all. At all. And it's idiomatic. In French, we say I'm impatient to do it. I'm impatient to do this and that. There should be a little lesson. Short, easy, straightforward. It's not complicated. It gives a lot of value, a lot of knowledge. useful to kids, they don't do that. Those lessons are completely absent in all books. I have 500,000 of them. So what I've done, again, over the past 5-10 years, I've been writing down all of them. I have a huge list like this. So I have entire lessons. It's a thing of beauty. I love this because I think that's how I managed to be fluent in English. Once I learned everything that I could in France and I came here and I figured out all these expressions, I had to be proactive, ask people, what do you mean by that? Or wait, if I was a little too shy, I wait and I heard things over and over and I could figure out what they meant. But again, this is something, and that really allows them, really what I've done is putting together a method that does the same as, accomplishes the same as spending 2 years abroad, really, at least 2 years. Because you probably know that there are people who live here in America and after 20 years they still don't know English. I met many. But because again, to learn a language you have to be proactive, really. Okay, and now, in terms of pronunciation, I think Spanish is easier. There are not that many tricks to know. All I can think of in Spanish, even though it's not my main language, is I think people, again, should, we baby students in all methods. That means they're always taught the way we read sentences. So I am not going to go, well, Americans say, I'm not going to go to the movies, okay? Same thing in Spanish and French and other languages. So I think in Spanish, people tend, when you have a word that ends with a vowel, like an A or an O, and the next word begins with the same vowel, then we blend words together, going pretty fast, okay? So I think that's one thing to teach. You need to teach how in south of Spain and Latin America, people, when they speak fast, tend to drop the D's and S's. Because again, teachers think, well, it's wrong, you don't teach that, or it's not proper. Or they don't hear the difference. If they're native speakers, they don't hear the difference, they don't think about it. But for someone who learns Spanish or French, it makes a difference. In French, for instance, they all learn to say, je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont. Number one, nous sommes, get rid of it, we don't use it, okay? Number two, je suis, we'll try to, we have, in every language, we have vowel, consonant, so that words flow. But when we speak fast, we tend to try to break the rule, drop a vowel, and have two consonants together, we compress them together, we create a new sound. So it ends up being very different, sounding very different. Je suis is going to be pronounced suis. Tu es, the French will say te. They will not say tu es. Tu as, you have is going to be ta. And kids don't know it. Very simple, basic things. It's not traumatizing to know it. Lights off. Oh, it's my computer. There you go. Okay. So I always tell them, at the beginning, keep that in the back of your mind. It's no big deal, but don't expect the French to say this or that. And at least they know. Otherwise, they'll wait for people to say je suis français. They'll never hear that. They'll hear je suis français. Okay. Plenty of little things like these. Same thing with the negative form. You learn ne, verb, pas, without ever knowing that the French skip the ne completely. So if they skip the ne and they skip the i from the pronoun, the vowel from the pronoun before, je ne suis pas français ends up being je suis pas français. But they don't know that. They never understand basic things. That's why they come out of French 4. They go to France and they have no idea what people are talking about because they don't learn these little things. Il y a, same thing. Il y a, there is, there are, or ago. They all know il y a, they memorize, they can tell, well, il y a is, there is, there are. Yeah, but the French will say ya, not il y a, every single time. Ya. If you don't know it, a lot of the kids are not going to guess. The E in second position of a word is going to be skipped. Il regarde la télé, il regarde la télé, il regarde. Many things like these. The fact that about 70% of the liaison, when we blend words together, teachers say, in French we have the liaison, we blend words together. So the final consonant is silent, we say it when it's followed by a vowel. Yes, when you read, but when people speak, they'll skip about 70% of them. Some are absolutely mandatory, article, noun, subject, verb. The rest of them, people won't make them. So, then it's going to be hard to understand if you don't know that. Il faut, that's a whole rule, and it's such a big topic that I think teachers don't even know how to teach it anymore. There are certain ways, there are like 3 main uses of il faut, and there's one way that we don't really need that they really teach. There's a way that's very important that they don't really teach, and then instead kids learn, avoir besoin. So, plenty of little things like these. So, again, well, I've put together a very different method. It's got very different, clear, accurate explanations on every single point. I've added plenty of bonus lessons, lessons that I think are crucial, that kids need to know, and that they don't have access to anywhere else. Let me give you an example. Like, to be mad at someone. To be mad at someone, everybody's could be blown away by that one. Because when you think of it, to be mad at someone in English doesn't make that much sense either. Sometimes my students say, well, that makes sense in English, doesn't make sense in French. So I like to make a point that in English sometimes it doesn't make that much sense. So to be mad at someone is something completely different. It's to want some at someone. En vouloir à quelqu'un. Barely makes sense either, but that's how it is. So I think it's important people use it. You have to know that. I constantly pay attention to slow and fast pronunciation in everything that I do. In every lesson that I teach, I say, this is how you read it slowly. Okay, I know you want to know because you're starting French, but this is how the French are going to pronounce those sentences. And I show them what is skipped, what is blended together. In all the extra examples I provide offline, I do the same thing, slow, fast pronunciation. So we have weekly webinars, 1 hour a week for 16 weeks for one semester, and it takes place in an interactive classroom with built-in whiteboard and webcam. So they get, yes?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm taking everything in that you're saying. So you have the slow pronunciation and the fast pronunciation. Are they practicing that at the same time, or is there a value in, like, let's just practice it slowly for a little bit so that
when I tell them, I let them free because they raise their hands to if they want to pronounce and see if they say it correctly. So I think there are people who are gifted for languages and some that are not. Right. Those who are not, I'll tell them, say it slowly, and start with that, focus on that. And they just love, they get a big kick out of saying it faster, and they get it right.
Right.
And so right away they sound like native speakers, and they're comfortable with it.
I guess I'm asking because as an adult, I like lots and lots of explanation of, like, what do you mean when you say it really, like, I need to know what you took out to say it fast. But with my child, he's not really all into explanations. And so he would be perfectly happy if you just did it really fast and he didn't really understand how he got there. So I'm trying to find the balance between what is the most valuable is to get the, I don't know, am I making any sense?
Yes, let me try to answer that before, but I think, and that's why we say that my lessons are redesigned, and when people ask me how early can they start this, and I would say at least 10, so that they can really understand.
Okay.
Before that, they're going to be too young to understand slow, fast pronunciation, and all these things.
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, they have to be mature enough to understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just thinking about like when we learn a language, like children in our native language, we just learn what our parents are saying. Or so if parents say things very short, that's what the kid is going to learn. And afterwards, when you go to school or whatever, that's when we learn the proper kind of like grammar and the whole inside. I'm guessing it will be kind of the same process. Like if we start with younger children in that way, where we just like say the way it's said, commonly, that will be okay. And then afterwards, when they are ready to, understand a little bit more, that will be.
My take is that it's not the same process because you're talking about when kids are born hearing the language between the age of birth and 6. When it's all natural, and I'm dealing with kids who are already 10. English is their native language, the one language they know. So to me, it's a bit of a different process. That's why I like them to see. When I write it down, I feel like I have to write it properly because I want them to be able to speak properly, to write properly, to go to school, get good grades, and get the right grammar.
What I mean is that younger kids, like if they are starting, for example, my daughter is interested in learning French, and she's 5. She just turned 5, and but to me, like it will be easier for her to start very
informal setting. Completely.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
That's how she will learn it.
Oh, I agree. Yes, as I said, until the age of 6, if you can immerse them in the language, the second way is what they'll hear, what they learn. So, you know, for native speakers in French, you know, same thing. When they go to school, you know, sometimes they hear on n'est pas là, and they just hear on est pas là, and they